He took the blows for her daughter. Now the mother demands him as hers. Dust swirled around the edges of the settlement, carried by the constant winds that the colonists had long learned to respect. Machines hummed in the background, harvesting minerals from the surface and maintaining life support systems. The colony was a place of survival, hard work, and human ingenuity. And at its heart, there was Commander Elias Kane, a man whose presence was as solid as the reinforced walls of the habitat dome. Elias moved quickly through the settlement, boots kicking up tiny clouds of dust. His uniform was scratched and scorched from years of patrols outside the safety of the dome. He did not complain, though. Complaints were for the weak. His focus today was on the perimeter, where sensors had detected movement near the colony's edge. Nova Prime was known for its dangerous wildlife, creatures that could crush a human without effort, or worse, inject venom that burned the flesh like fire. Elias knew that even the smallest lapse could be fatal. As he rounded a corner near the colony's outer wall, he saw her. Lyra, she was only 16, with dark hair tied in a messy braid. Her pale face turned upward toward the sky as she watched one of the drones inspecting the perimeter. Her small frame looked fragile against the harsh environment of Nova Prime, but Elias had come to admire her intelligence. She had a mind that could solve problems most adults could not, but intelligence did not protect her from danger. Elias' instincts kicked in before he even realized it. From the dust-blown horizon, a shape emerged. A predator, tall and sleek, its body glistening under the sun's heat. Its legs moved with a terrifying speed, claws scraping against the rock. The colony had sensors, yes, but nothing could fully stop an attack like this. "Lyra!" Elias shouted. The girl turned, eyes wide with fear. Before she could move, the creature lunged. Elias didn't hesitate. He shoved her aside and took the brunt of the attack himself. Claws slashed through his chest plate, tearing metal and flesh alike. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth and stood his ground. The colony's alarms blared. Lights flashed red. Other colonists emerged from the habitat, their weapons trained on the predator. But Elias was already in motion, swinging a plasma blade with precision, every move calculated. The predator hissed and tried to retreat, but Elias cut it off, driving it back toward the rocks where its footing was unstable. Lyra watched from the ground, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to run to help, but she was frozen. She could only watch as the man who had always seemed invincible now bled in front of her. Finally, with one last strike, Elias defeated the creature. It fell to the ground, motionless. His armor was scorched, his uniform ripped and bloodied, and he leaned heavily on his plasma blade for support. "Elias!" Lyra ran to him, dropping to her knees beside him. Her hands trembled as she tried to check his wounds, but the deep gashes were horrifying. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice was strained. "Just stay behind me next time." "You could have died," she cried. "You shouldn't have." "I couldn't let anything happen to you," he interrupted gently, placing a hand over hers. "That's my job. That's what we do for each other on Nova Prime." By the time the colony medics arrived, Elias was already leaning against a rock, breathing shallow but steady. Lyra clung to him as the medics lifted him onto a hover stretcher. From the observation deck of the habitat, Maurice, Lyra's mother, watched the entire scene unfold. Her heart pounded and her hands clenched at her sides. She had always trusted the colony's security team, but seeing Elias take those blows for her daughter filled her with a mix of gratitude and unease. When the medics brought Elias inside the medical bay, Maurice followed, pacing the hallway like a caged animal. She had always been practical, never letting fear control her decisions. But seeing the man who had saved her daughter's life like this, bloodied, injured, but alive, stirred something she could not easily explain. Elias lay on the medical bed, silent for the first few moments as medics cleaned and bandaged the deep gashes. He winced with each movement, but he said nothing. It was not in him to complain. Lyra refused to leave his side. She held his hand, her small fingers brushing against the rough skin, marveling at the warmth and the steady heartbeat beneath. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't need to," Elias replied, his voice weak but calm. "Just live your life." "That's enough for me." Maurice entered the room, her face pale, eyes fixed on Elias. "Commander Kane," she began, her voice trembling. I don't know how to repay you. You saved her life. You." "Ma'am," Elias interrupted gently, "I did what anyone would do. No one can predict danger like this, but we all protect each other. That's how humanity survives out here." Maris nodded slowly, but her mind was spinning. There was a bravery in this man that went beyond duty. He had risked his life for her daughter, and in doing so, he had earned something more than gratitude. Over the next few days, Elias remained in the med bay, recovering from his injuries. The colony buzzed with talk of his bravery. Children whispered about the hero who faced the alien beast, and adults debated the risks he had taken. Lyra visited him constantly, bringing books, small gifts, and her endless curiosity. Each time she came, she marveled at how calm he remained, how his focus never wavered, even in pain. Maris also began visiting, though her reasons were more complex. At first, she came to ensure that Elias was treated properly, that no mistakes were made in his recovery. But as days passed, she found herself lingering longer than necessary, watching him, studying him, wondering at the quiet strength he carried. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet, Maris and Elias spoke alone in the med bay. The lights were soft, and the hum of the machines was the only sound. "You saved her," Maris said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to repay you." Elias looked at her, his face calm despite the bruises forming on his skin. "You don't need to. You raised her well. She's clever, resourceful, and brave." "That's thanks enough." Maris shook her head, a small, almost imperceptible tremor in her hands. "No, it's more than that. You risked your life. I did what I had to do," Elias interrupted softly. "Humanity thrives on courage, on protecting one another. That's what we do. Not for reward, not for recognition, just because it's right." Maris stared at him, realizing something she hadn't understood before. It was not just the act of saving Lyra that impressed her. It was the humanity behind it, the selflessness, the calm determination, the unwavering commitment to others. It was rare, and in this harsh world it was everything. The conversation ended quietly, each lost in their thoughts. Elias returned to his rest, and Maris left the med bay with a mind buzzing with new emotions she didn't yet fully understand. She realized that saving her daughter's life had created a bond between her and Elias, a bond she had not anticipated. The colony, meanwhile, began to return to its normal rhythm. Children laughed in the corridors, engineers fixed damaged equipment, and the hum of machinery filled the air. But for Maris, Lyra, and Elias, nothing would ever truly be the same. Elias had proven what it meant to be human in the harshest conditions. He had risked everything for someone else, and in doing so, reminded everyone in the colony of a simple truth. Human courage and compassion are the greatest weapons against any danger. As the night settled over Nova Prime, Maris stood at the observation deck, watching the stars blink above the horizon. She knew one thing with certainty: Elias Kane was no ordinary man. And whatever the future held, his presence would change her life, and her daughter's life forever. For now, though, the colony rested, and Elias, wounded but unbroken, slept. The suns had set, the dust had settled, and the story of a man who took the blows for another had only just begun. The colony of Nova Prime settled into an uneasy rhythm after the predator attack. The dust still clung to every surface, and the suns blazed across the horizon, but life continued. Machines hummed, children played, and the colonists worked tirelessly to maintain their fragile existence on the alien world. Commander Elias Kane had returned to the med bay after a week of basic recovery. His wounds were healing, though the scars ran deep, a reminder of the predator's claws. The medics had done their best, but even advanced technology could not erase the memory of pain. Elias' presence, however, remained as steady as ever. He walked the hallways of the colony, helping wherever needed, though his steps were slower, more careful. Lyra followed him almost everywhere. The girl was still recovering emotionally from the attack, and she clung to Elias not only for safety, but also for guidance. He had become a living example of courage, and in her young mind, nothing seemed impossible as long as he was near. Maris, however, noticed something new in her heart every time she watched them together. Gratitude, yes, but also a strange, restless emotion she could not fully name. She began visiting Elias more frequently in the med bay, always under the guise of checking on his recovery. She brought clean clothes, extra rations, and small gifts from the colony's stores. But over time, her visits lingered. She would stand near his bed, observing him quietly, almost as if studying him. One evening, as Nova Prime's twin suns dipped behind the jagged mountains in the distance, Maris approached Elias while he adjusted some equipment in the med bay. "Commander Kane," she began, her voice unusually soft, almost hesitant. "I wanted to see how you're feeling today." Elias looked up, giving her a calm smile. "Better than yesterday, ma'am. The wounds are healing and I'm getting my strength back." Maris hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I don't think I've properly thanked you. You saved Lyra. You risked your life for her." Elias shook his head, brushing a hand over the bandages on his chest. "I did what any of us would do. Humanity survives because we protect one another. That's all." Mari's eyes lingered on him. There was something about his calm, steady demeanor that both frustrated and fascinated her. For the first time in years, she felt vulnerable, not in body, but in mind. Seeing someone willingly take danger for another stirred feelings she could not ignore. I wonder," Maris began, her voice faltering slightly, "if there is more a person can do when they have such courage." Elias frowned slightly. "I don't understand, ma'am." Maris took a deep breath. "I mean, you risked everything for my daughter. That is more than duty." "That is exceptional." Her eyes searched his face. I wish there was a way to keep such courage close, to ensure my daughter always has it around her." Elias studied her for a moment, sensing the unusual weight behind her words. "You mean you want me to stay here in the colony longer?" he asked cautiously. Maris hesitated, then nodded slowly. "More than that. I want you to be part of our lives permanently. I want your protection, your guidance, your presence for Lyra, and perhaps for me as well." Elias paused. Her words were unexpected, almost unsettling. He had faced deadly predators, hostile factions, and countless dangers on Nova Prime, but the idea of being claimed in this way was something he had never anticipated. "I am honored, ma'am," he said carefully, choosing his words. "But I cannot belong to anyone. I serve humanity as a whole, not a single person. My duty is to the colony, to all its people, not to one household." Mari's lips pressed together in frustration, though her eyes softened. She realized he was not rejecting her personally, but refusing to give up his freedom, his autonomy. And yet, the intensity of her desire to keep him close only grew stronger. Over the next few days, Mari's visits became a quiet battle of wills. She brought small gifts, asked about his needs, and watched his routines, but always trying to find a way to justify her claim. She never demanded directly, only hinted, hoping that Elias might understand her intention without forcing her to speak it aloud. Meanwhile, Elias continued his duties around the colony. He inspected habitat systems, trained recruits, and coordinated patrols along the dangerous perimeter. Every action was deliberate, measured, demonstrating the human ability to adapt and endure. He healed slowly but effectively, relying on discipline and mental focus to overcome the lingering pain. Lyra, sensing tension between her mother and Elias, tried to mediate. "Mother," she said one evening as they watched him repairing a damaged solar panel, "Commander Kane is here to help all of us. Maybe he can stay close without belonging to anyone. That's enough, isn't it?" Maris shook her head, though she smiled faintly. "Yes, dear. Perhaps you're right, but sometimes a mother fears for her child in ways she cannot control." The situation grew more complicated when a group of engineers discovered structural weaknesses in one of the colony's energy domes. If the dome collapsed, hundreds could die. Elias immediately coordinated a repair team, directing workers with precision. He climbed to dangerous heights, guided by his experience and knowledge of human ingenuity. Maris watched from below, heart in her throat, as he moved across precarious scaffolding. Even after everything that had passed, she felt the same mix of fear and admiration as she had the day he saved Lyra. When the repair was complete, Elias descended, brushing dust from his uniform. His calm composure had inspired the workers, and the dome was now safe. Maris approached him cautiously, still wrestling with her emotions. You do everything for everyone," she said quietly. "It is remarkable. You never hesitate, never falter." Elias met her gaze. "Humanity thrives because we face what we must without waiting for recognition or reward. That is what makes us strong." Maris nodded, but she could not shake the feelings of attachment forming in her heart. She realized that her desire to keep him close was not just about gratitude. It was born from fear, admiration, and a longing to anchor her daughter's life with the certainty of his protection. As the days passed, the colony faced smaller but constant threats. Alien creatures scouted the perimeter, weather systems shifted unpredictably, and supplies sometimes failed to reach the settlement. In each crisis, Elias was at the forefront, demonstrating human resilience. His ability to think quickly, adapt to the environment, and protect others elevated him beyond any ordinary colonist. Maurice observed silently, learning something new each day. Elias did not seek glory. He did not manipulate others or use fear to command loyalty. Instead, he inspired trust through action, proving that humanity's strength lay in courage, integrity, and compassion. One evening, as the colony rested, Elias trained a group of young recruits in combat and survival techniques. Lyra watched eagerly, taking notes. Mari stood at the back, folding her arms, conflicted. She admired his discipline and dedication, but she also felt an irrational sense of possessiveness. It was a feeling she had never experienced before, and it both frightened and fascinated her. After the training session, Elias approached Maurice quietly. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I sense your concern. You wish to ensure your daughter is safe. That is natural, but understand this. Safety does not come from possession. It comes from teaching, preparation, and trust." Maurice hesitated, then exhaled slowly. "Yes, I know that, but still, I cannot help the way I feel. Seeing you risk your life for her, it changes everything." Elias placed a hand over hers, not in ownership, but in reassurance. "Then use that feeling wisely. Let it guide you to nurture her, to teach her courage, and to face dangers with confidence. That is the greatest gift you can give her." Mari studied him for a long moment, understanding the truth in his words. She could not control him. She could not claim him. But she could learn from him. She could absorb the lessons of courage, patience, and moral strength that he exemplified. By the end of the week, a subtle shift had occurred. Mari's feelings of possessiveness were tempered by respect and understanding. She still desired his presence in her daughter's life, but she no longer saw him as something to claim. Instead, she recognized that his guidance was a force for good, one that could shape Lyra's future without demanding loyalty in return. Elias, for his part, remained calm and focused. He continued to protect the colony, train its people, and face threats without hesitation. He did not flinch when danger appeared, and he did not waver in his dedication to humanity. His courage inspired not only Lyra but the entire settlement. As night fell over Nova Prime, Mari stood once again at the observation deck. She looked out at the distant mountains, the alien sky, and the tiny lights of the colony below. She realized that her emotions had changed, growing more complex with every passing day. Elias Kane was no longer just a hero who had saved her daughter. He was a living example of human strength, courage, and selflessness. And while she could not demand him to belong to her, she could hold on to the lessons he offered, ensuring that her daughter, and perhaps herself, would be stronger for it. For now, the colony slept under the twin sun's fading glow, and Elias, wounded but steadfast, prepared for the challenges that awaited. The Predator attack had been only the beginning. Nova Prime would test them all again, but with courage, unity, and the guidance of a man who took the blows for another, they would survive. The colony of Nova Prime had barely recovered from the Predator attack when a new challenge appeared. It was not from the wilds or the alien plains outside, but from within. A group of colonists, frustrated by the constant dangers and scarcity of resources, began questioning the leadership. They whispered that Elias Kane, with all his heroics and influence, was no ordinary man. Some claimed his bravery was tainted by proximity to alien threats. Others murmured that he should not have the freedom to decide who lives or dies in the colony. Elias had sensed the growing unease, but remained focused on the practical needs of the settlement. Repairs were ongoing on the habitat domes, food supplies had to be rationed, and patrols along the dangerous perimeter were essential. Every day presented a new problem, and he approached each with the same careful attention and unwavering calm. One afternoon, a council meeting was called in the central hall. The hall was a wide, reinforced structure, buzzing with colonists gathered to hear the discussion. Mari stood among them, Lyra at her side, while Elias entered last, his presence commanding immediate attention. His injuries had mostly healed, but his uniform still bore faint scars, a silent testament to his courage. "Commander Kane," one of the dissenting colonists began, a tall man named Garrick, "we appreciate what you have done, but the colony cannot continue to depend on a single individual. Your proximity to alien attacks is dangerous." Some of us believe you should be relieved of command, or at least exiled to the outer perimeter. It is too risky to allow one person to hold so much influence." A murmur ran through the hall. Elia's face remained calm, but his eyes scanned the crowd, noting fear, anger, and misunderstanding. He stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. "I understand your concerns," Elia said, "but courage is not weakness and strength is not something to fear. I do not act for glory or recognition. I act for the survival of every person in this colony. If you believe exiling me will improve our chances, then I ask, who will face the next predator, who will repair the failing domes, who will ensure your children live through the storms and attacks?" Garrick's face hardened. "We are not afraid of predators. We are afraid of placing our trust in one man who might falter. Nova Prime is unforgiving. If you fail, we all die." Elias stepped closer, his calm intensity filling the room. "I will not fail. And even if I were to fall, the lessons I leave behind, how to adapt, how to survive, how to protect each other, will endure. That is what makes humanity strong. Not fear, not blind obedience, but courage, intelligence, and unity." Maris, standing nearby, felt a surge of admiration. She realized once again that Elia's strength was not just physical. It was moral. It was the kind of strength that inspired trust and loyalty without demanding it. The council debated long into the evening. Some colonists remained unconvinced, arguing that no one person should hold such sway. Others supported Elias, pointing to his bravery, his guidance, and the countless lives he had saved. Lyra listened quietly, her young mind absorbing the lessons unfolding before her eyes. Finally, the council reached a decision. Elias would remain in his role, but he would share authority with a small council, ensuring that decisions were collaborative. Some dissenters were not satisfied, but the majority accepted the compromise. The next morning, Elias resumed his patrols along the colony perimeter. The alien plains stretched endlessly, jagged rocks and strange flora casting long shadows under the twin suns. Lyra walked beside him, eager to learn from every step, while Maris followed at a distance, her mind still wrestling with her emotions and her understanding of human courage. As they moved, Elias explained the principles that guided him. "Nova Prime is dangerous," he said. "But danger is not an excuse for fear. It is an opportunity to show strength, to work together, and to protect one another. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action despite fear." Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the ground. The colonists froze and Elia's eyes narrowed. He recognized the sound immediately, another predator larger than the first, stalking the edges of the colony. "Stay behind me," he commanded calmly, drawing his plasma blade. Lyra stepped back, but her eyes shone with determination. She had learned much from him already, and while fear tugged at her, she wanted to stand close to witness courage in action. The predator emerged from the shadows, its massive body moving with terrifying speed. Elias assessed its movements quickly. Unlike the previous attack, this creature was faster, smarter, and more aggressive. The colony's defense systems were not enough. Human skill and quick thinking would be essential. Elias moved with precision, anticipating the predator's attacks. He dodged claws, countered strikes, and guided the creature away from the colony structures. Lyra watched, her heart pounding, as he used every ounce of his knowledge and training to protect them all. When the predator lunged again, Elias saw an opportunity. Using the terrain, he drove the creature toward a steep ridge. With a final, precise strike, he sent it tumbling down the slope where it could do no further harm. The colony erupted in relief and admiration. Colonists came running, praising his bravery and skill. Maris, however, stayed silent, tears in her eyes. She had witnessed his courage firsthand, the kind that went beyond words or accolades. After the danger passed, Elias addressed the gathered colonists. "This is Nova Prime. We cannot rely on fear, nor on one person alone. We survive by learning, by helping each other, and by facing danger with courage. That is what makes humanity strong." Garrick, who had argued for Elias' exile, stood quietly, his expression unreadable. He no longer spoke against Elias openly, but a tension remained. Elias knew that not everyone would understand him. Some feared the qualities that made humans extraordinary. That evening, Maris approached Elias in the med bay. The day's events had left her heart racing and her mind restless. "Commander Kane," she said softly, "I saw what you did today. You faced the predator alone, guided us, and kept the colony safe. I understand more now why everyone respects you." but I cannot stop thinking about how much you give and how little you ask in return." Elias looked at her calmly. "Courage is not measured by what we ask for. It is measured by what we give without expecting anything back. That is what makes us human. That is what allows us to survive in worlds like this." Maris nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She realized that her previous desire to claim him, to have him as a protector only for her family, was misguided. True protection did not come from possession. It came from guidance, teaching, and shared courage. Lyra entered the room, her eyes bright. "I want to be like you someday," she said. "I want to protect people and make smart choices like you do. I don't want to be scared anymore." Elias smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You already have the courage, Lyra. You just have to learn to trust it. And remember, protecting others is not about strength alone. It is about heart, intelligence, and never giving up." Maris watched them together, understanding that Elia's influence went far beyond the battlefield. He was shaping the next generation, teaching them how to face fear, how to act with integrity, and how to survive with honor. The colony rested that night, but the lessons of the day remained vivid. Elia's courage had been tested, not just against alien predators, but against doubt and human fear. And he had proven once again that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to rise above danger, to act with selflessness, and to inspire others through action. For Maris, the experience was transformative. She no longer sought to possess Elias, but she resolved to learn from him, to absorb the qualities that made him extraordinary, and to instill those same values in her daughter. Elias, calm and unshaken, prepared for the next challenge. Nova Prime was full of dangers, both alien and human, but with courage, intelligence, and moral strength, he knew they could face anything. The bond between him, Lyra, and Maris had grown, not from ownership or demand, but from mutual respect and the shared experience of surviving against all odds. As the twin suns set behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the colony, the future seemed uncertain, but filled with possibility. Elias Kane had faced the test of loyalty, and humanity had triumphed through courage, unity, and selflessness. The story of a man who took the blows for another was far from over. Nova Prime had many challenges ahead, but one thing was certain. As long as humans faced them with courage and heart, they would endure. Nova Prime was not a forgiving world. Its red plains stretched endlessly under twin suns, and shadows of jagged mountains crept across the colony at dusk. The settlers had learned to endure, but the planet still tested them, over and over. And now a new challenge approached, more dangerous than any predator or rival colonist. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the colony, scanning the horizon. His plasma blade hung at his side, ready, though the real threat was not always visible. Sensors had detected a large alien vessel descending in the distance, its dark shape blotting out part of the sky. The colony had never seen anything like it. The vessel was massive, sleek, and clearly not of human design. Lyra ran up beside him, eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Commander Kane, what is that?" she asked, breathless. Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied the readings, analyzing the size, speed, and potential weapons. "It's an alien craft," he said finally. "We don't know if they are hostile, but we must assume they are. Prepare for defense." Maris joined them moments later, her heart pounding. She had come to trust Elias completely, but seeing the unknown threat looming over their home filled her with fear she could not suppress. Yet she also felt a strange admiration. He never faltered, even when facing the unknown. The colony erupted into action. Citizens ran to arms stations, engineers repaired defensive turrets, and drones took to the skies. Elias coordinated everything with calm precision, giving orders that were followed immediately. His presence was a beacon of certainty amid chaos. As the alien craft approached, strange drones descended from it. They moved with frightening speed, landing on the outer perimeter and scanning the colony. Elias led a team to intercept, his plasma blade humming in his grip. Lyra stayed close, ready to assist with her technical knowledge of colony defenses. The first encounter was brutal. The drones were fast and strong, far more powerful than anything the colony had faced before. Elias dodged energy strikes, countered attacks, and guided his team with flawless strategy. Humans worked together, using ingenuity and resourcefulness to fight, demonstrating why humanity could endure even the deadliest worlds. Maris watched from a safe distance, her hands gripping the railing as she witnessed Elias in action. He moved with calm determination, never reckless, yet always decisive. The sight filled her with admiration, but also a troubling realization. The bond between Elias and her family had grown stronger than she had imagined. Her desire to keep him near, once only a quiet longing, now surged, more urgent than before. After the initial wave of drones was repelled, Elias returned to the colony center to coordinate repairs and defenses. The craft hovered above, silent but threatening, and sensors detected movement inside. More drones were on their way. "You handled them well," Maris said, approaching him cautiously. "But I don't understand. You risk everything, yet you never ask for anything in return. Why?" Elias looked at her calmly, his eyes reflecting the twin suns above. "Because that is what humans do. Courage is not measured by reward. It is measured by the willingness to protect, to act for others even when it is dangerous. That is how we survive. That is what makes us strong." Maris nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She realized that her previous desire to claim him, her wish to have him as a protector only for her family, was rooted in fear, not understanding. She wanted the safety he provided, the certainty of his strength, but Elia's guidance went far beyond possession. Meanwhile, Lyra worked alongside engineers to reinforce the colony's outer walls. She had grown in confidence under Elia's mentorship, understanding now that bravery was not only about facing danger with a weapon, but also about thinking, planning, and working together. The next wave of drones attacked at sunset. This time they were stronger, more coordinated. Elias led the defense personally, moving across the battlefield with precision and intelligence. He coordinated teams, predicting drone movements and adapting strategies on the fly. Humans with ingenuity and cooperation began to gain the upper hand. Maris observed, feeling a strange mixture of fear, pride, and longing. She realized that her admiration for Elias had transformed into something deeper, an emotional bond she could not ignore. She had wanted to claim him, but now she understood that true connection was not about ownership. It was about trust, respect, and shared purpose. During the battle, one of the drones targeted Lyra directly. Without hesitation, Elias intercepted the attack, throwing himself between her and the danger. The energy strike grazed his shoulder, leaving a burn, but he stood firm, his determination unshaken. "Lyra, stay behind me," he shouted. She obeyed, her hands trembling as she watched the man she admired protect her once more. The fight was long, and exhaustion began to take its toll. Yet Elias never faltered. His leadership, courage, and calm under pressure inspired the colonists to continue, even when hope seemed slim. Humans worked together, using their wits and resilience to overcome the alien threat. Finally, after hours of struggle, the drones were defeated. The alien craft retreated, disappearing into the red horizon. The colony had survived, battered but alive, thanks to the courage and leadership of Elias Kane. As the dust settled, Maris approached Elias again. I understand now," she said softly. "I wanted to claim you to keep you near, but you are not something to possess. You are a guide, a protector, and a teacher. And more than that, you show us what humans are capable of when we act with courage and heart." Elias regarded her quietly, nodding. "That is correct, ma'am. True protection does not come from possession. It comes from teaching, guiding, and inspiring others to be brave themselves. That is how humanity thrives." Lyra joined them, her eyes shining. "I want to be brave like you, Commander Kane. I want to protect people, too. I want to help the colony survive." Elias smiled, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "And you will, Lyra. Courage is not about being fearless. It is about acting despite fear. You have already shown bravery, and you will grow stronger with every challenge." Maris watched them, a sense of peace washing over her. She realized that her feelings had evolved. She no longer sought to control Elias or claim him as her own. Instead, she embraced the lessons he represented, the courage, selflessness, and integrity that were the true measure of humanity. Over the next days, the colony began to repair the damage from the attacks. Walls were reinforced, energy systems restored, and defensive drones upgraded. Elias worked tirelessly, always calm, always guiding, ensuring that the colony was prepared for whatever Nova Prime might throw at them next. Maris spent time learning from him, observing how he analyzed threats, coordinated humans, and inspired cooperation. She realized that his influence was far greater than she had imagined, not because he demanded loyalty, but because he earned it through action, example, and moral strength. Lyra absorbed every lesson, growing more confident with each passing day. She learned that courage was not only physical but also mental and emotional. She understood the value of preparation, strategy, and teamwork. And above all, she recognized the kind of humanity that Elias represented: brave, selfless, and unshakably moral. One evening, as the sun set and cast the colony in warm golden light, Maris approached Elias in the med bay, quietly and with humility. "I see it now," she said softly. "I wanted to claim you, but that was wrong. You cannot belong to anyone. You are an example, a guide. You show us what humans can be, and I want to learn from you, not control you." Elias nodded, his calm gaze reassuring. "That is the right understanding. Influence is earned through courage, wisdom, and action, not through ownership or demand. That is what shapes humans, and that is what ensures survival." Maris felt a sense of relief and clarity. The bond she had feared, the longing she had once thought to satisfy by possession, had transformed into respect, understanding, and trust. She realized that Elias Kane's true gift was not merely protection, it was inspiration. He had shown them all what humanity could achieve when fear was faced with courage and selflessness. That night, the colony rested under the twin moons of Nova Prime. Elias sat quietly in the med bay, tending to minor injuries and reviewing strategies for future threats. Lyra slept nearby, exhausted but content, her mind alive with new lessons. Maris watched from the observation deck, reflecting on the transformation in herself, her daughter, and the colony as a whole. Nova Prime was harsh and unforgiving, but humans endured. They survived through courage, through heart, and through the unwavering guidance of one man who had chosen to protect others at all costs. And though the challenges ahead were uncertain, one truth was clear. With courage, intelligence, and moral strength, humanity could face any threat and triumph. The story of a man who took the blows for another had reached a turning point. The colony had faced alien invaders, internal doubts, and life-threatening danger. Through it all, Elias Kane had remained steadfast, a living symbol of what humans were capable of. And the bond between him, Lyra, and Maris had grown stronger, not through possession or demand, but through respect, guidance, and the shared experience of survival. Nova Prime was quiet that morning. The twin suns rose over the jagged mountains, casting long shadows across the colony. The red plains shimmered, and dust swirled in gentle spirals across the settlement. After weeks of alien threats, internal conflicts, and dangerous surprises, the colonists were exhausted, but alive. Commander Elias Kane moved through the colony with calm precision. His wounds had long healed, though the faint scars on his arms and chest remained, a permanent reminder of the dangers he had faced. Today, however, the threat was unlike anything the colony had experienced before. A massive storm system, unseen by sensors until now, swept across the outer plains, bringing high winds, razor-sharp dust, and lightning that threatened the colony's fragile structures. Elias immediately organized the colony. "Everyone must secure the domes and equipment," he instructed. "Teams will reinforce walls, drones will protect critical systems, and everyone else must stay in safe zones." Lyra followed him, determined to help. She had learned so much from him, the value of courage, preparation, and teamwork. Today, she would put those lessons into practice. Maris observed from the observation deck, her mind calm but alert. She had faced fear, frustration, and uncertainty many times over the past weeks, but today was different. Today, the storm was beyond human control. And yet, watching Elias act with calm authority reminded her of one truth: humanity's greatest power lay not in domination of the world, but in courage, cooperation, and ingenuity. The storm arrived swiftly. Winds tore across the plains, battering the domes with debris. Lightning cracked the sky, striking near energy pylons. Dust filled the air, blinding the settlers and making breathing difficult. Elias moved quickly, coordinating teams, giving precise instructions. "Reinforce the dome here. Move the drones to protect the energy lines. Everyone stay calm and focused." Lyra worked alongside engineers, tightening bolts, repairing torn panels, and securing loose equipment. Her hands were cut and bruised from the effort, but her determination never wavered. Elias noticed her bravery, offering guidance and encouragement. "Good work, Lyra. Keep moving. You're helping save lives." Maris, though not on the front lines, directed civilians to safe zones, guided injured colonists, and communicated with teams across the colony. She realized that courage was not just for soldiers, it was for everyone who faced danger and chose to act despite fear. As the storm intensified, a section of the main energy dome began to collapse. Sparks flew, and a loud crack echoed across the settlement. Without hesitation, Elias ran toward the danger, Lyra close behind him. "Stay behind me," he shouted. Dust whipped across their faces, and the wind threatened to throw them off balance. Elias used his strength and skill to brace the dome, working with Lyra and the engineers to stabilize it. The structure groaned, but slowly under their effort it held. Maris watched, breath held, as her daughter and Elias worked side by side. She felt pride, fear, and relief all at once. The bond between them was strong, but not in a possessive way. It was built on trust, courage, and shared experience. She finally understood that protection was not about ownership. It was about guidance, example, and shared responsibility. Hours passed, and the storm raged on. Colonists moved tirelessly, following Elia's instructions, demonstrating ingenuity and cooperation at every turn. They created makeshift barriers from spare materials, used drones to monitor collapsing structures, and worked together to prevent disaster. At one point, a lightning strike ignited a storage area containing food supplies. Elias acted immediately. He directed colonists to contain the fire, using water reserves and fire-retardant drones. Lyra joined him, working alongside her mentor, courage fueling every action. The fire was extinguished, and the storm gradually began to pass. The colonists were exhausted, bruised, and battered, but alive. The dome had survived, the energy systems were functional, and the settlement had weathered the greatest threat it had yet faced. As the dust settled and the twin suns set, painting the red plains in orange and violet, Elias gathered the colonists in the main hall. They were tired, but their eyes shone with relief, pride, and renewed strength. "You have done well," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "Today we faced danger that could have destroyed everything. But we survived. Not because of one person, not because of luck, but because we worked together, we trusted each other, and we acted with courage. That is what makes humanity strong." The colonists cheered, clapping and shouting, their spirits lifted by his words. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining with admiration. She understood now what Elias had taught her. Bravery was not about fighting alone, but about inspiring others, working together, and facing fear with heart and intelligence. Maris stepped forward, tears in her eyes. She approached Elias cautiously, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "Commander Kane," she said, "I wanted to claim you to have you here only for my family, but I see now that true strength does not belong to anyone. It guides, protects, and inspires. You have taught us that, and I am grateful beyond words." Elias looked at her calmly, nodding. "That is the right understanding, ma'am. Courage and protection are not possessions. They are lessons, examples, and guidance. Humanity survives because we act selflessly, because we trust one another, and because we rise to every challenge together." Maris smiled faintly, a sense of peace washing over her. She realized that her desire to claim Elias had been replaced by respect, admiration, and trust. He was no longer just a protector, he was a living example of what humans could achieve when they acted with courage and integrity. Lyra stepped forward, holding Elias' hand. "Thank you for showing me how to be brave," she said softly. "I will never forget it. I want to protect people like you do." Elias placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "You already have the courage, Lyra. Continue to learn, continue to act with heart, and you will become a protector in your own way. Remember, bravery is not about being fearless. It is about acting despite fear for the good of others." The night fell over Nova Prime, the twin moons casting soft light over the settlement. The colony rested, exhausted but alive. Walls were repaired, energy systems stabilized, and the colonists had proven to themselves what humans could endure. Maris returned to her observation post, reflecting on everything that had happened. She had witnessed alien threats, human doubt, raging storms, and heroic acts. And through it all, she understood one thing. Elias Kane had shown the true measure of humanity, not through possession, not through power, but through courage, selflessness, and unwavering moral strength. Elias, seated quietly in the med bay, tended to minor injuries and reviewed the day's events. He had faced countless dangers, yet his focus remained on the people he protected. The colony, strengthened by his leadership, would endure, and humans would continue to survive on this harsh world because of the lessons they had learned. Lyra slept nearby, dreaming of adventure, courage, and the future she would build. She had absorbed the lessons of Elia's heroism and would carry them forward, protecting others with intelligence, heart, and bravery. Maris watched from the observation deck one last time, feeling a sense of completion. The bond between her daughter, and Elias had grown stronger, not because she had demanded it, but because he had guided them, inspired them, and shown them what humans could be. Nova Prime was harsh, unforgiving, and full of dangers yet unseen. But the colony had faced its greatest threats and endured. And the story of the man who had taken the blows for another, of the girl who had learned courage, and the mother who had learned to trust, had reached its satisfying conclusion. Humanity had triumphed, not through domination, not through possession, but through courage, ingenuity, and the moral strength to act selflessly. Elias Kane's heroism had inspired a colony, shaped a young mind, and transformed a mother's understanding of what true protection meant. The twin suns set over the red plains, casting the colony in soft, golden light. Humans had survived, stronger than before. They had faced predators, alien invaders, and nature's fury. And in every challenge, they had proven one simple truth: human courage, heart, and integrity could overcome any obstacle. Elias Kane stood on the observation deck with Maris and Lyra at his side. They looked out at the horizon, knowing that the world was harsh and full of danger. Yet they also knew that as long as humans acted with courage, wisdom, and selflessness, no threat, alien, environmental, or otherwise, could break them. Nova Prime had tested them, and humanity had risen to the challenge. The story of courage, protection, and moral strength had ended for now, leaving a colony united, inspired, and ready for the future. And in the quiet of the night under the twin moons, Elias Kane, the girl he had protected, and the mother who had once sought to claim him, knew this truth. Humans could face anything together and they would survive.